10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Manchester
1,
United have
0.
reached the promised land.
Yes, everybody, how are we all doing? Sam here, live on United People's TV. No football this weekend. No wins, no draws, no losses. It didn't ruin your weekend, didn't make your weekend. It was a bit, well, I had a cracking weekend. Went to a wedding. Flav, big up Flav. Good friends, cracking wedding. I'm still feeling a little bit sore, but you can let me off. So I'm not really hungover today, but just not quite 100%. But there's lots of talking points. There really are. We're going to be speaking about Ten Hag, the control inside this dressing room. It's going to be a nice, today's, I suppose, an opportunity to have sort of wider conversations. We're not really going to talk about the results or the performances or individuals. We can speak about separate things. Now, the Antony Martial interview, I know that quite a few of you have been messaging me for my thoughts and opinions on that. So I will be speaking about that Martial interview. Donny Van Der Beek's also given a separate interview. Nowhere near as explosive, but it's good to hear from Donny Van Der Beek. We'll run through that this morning too. We'll speak about football and whether it's going to be back this weekend. We're going to be speaking about our game against Sheriff Tiraspol that's on Thursday. And as always, I will answer as many of your questions in the comments down there and go down there saying, Sam, you sound tired. Yeah, as you can hear from my voice, I'm not 100% there. But look, I had a cracking weekend, and that's what weddings are supposed to be about. Celebrations, and it was a fantastic celebration. Pete, good morning to you from France. Bully, good morning to you. What are the members we've got down here? We've got Elaine watching from Belfast. How you doing there? We've got Ruben, Pushpinder, Ant, good morning to you. Josh, Mark, Michael, Daisy, Cordell, Frasbox. That's a new name. Maybe you got one of the gifted memberships last week because it was absolutely raining in here. Raining memberships, honestly. And that's, I say every single day. It's the biggest compliment of this community. The fact that everybody brings other people in. Josh, good morning to you as well. I can see you down there. And Paul Hogan. Woo! Right. So football, there was no football this weekend. The Premier League took the decision to postpone all Premier League games and EFL games in England. It wasn't a decision that came down from the government. The government sort of devolved responsibility and gave it to the institutions. Now, rugby went ahead. Golf went ahead, I think, after 1 day pause for the BMW PGA. And rugby union went ahead. But the Premier League and the EFL decided to pause all games. Now, I personally disagree with that decision, but the decision was taken. Now, in terms of this weekend's games, we don't have clarity on what is going on yet. Let me just bring you the news here. Did I just say Hulk Hogan? I meant Paul Hogan. Look, there you go. It is what it is. Matt saying, look, it sounds like when you got back from Vegas. I know. That's what happens when you're shouting and singing at a wedding. It's a loud place. What can you do? But yeah, I do end up sounding like Barry White when I've had a big one. Manchester United have confirmed that our game against Sheriff Tiraspol is going ahead on Thursday in Moldova. So Man United will be back in action on Thursday. And after losing that game against Real Sociedad, this match here is sort of heightened in importance. I maintain that I think we're going to be happy with Manchester United's group stage in the Europa League at the end of 6 games, right? We're not going to be happy at the end of 1 because that was a really... I'd say if our finishing was better against Sociedad, I think we probably still would have won. Cristiano Ronaldo in particular. But that penalty decision, the overall performance, it left a lot to be desired. And I don't think you can look at that penalty and say, oh, that's the reason we didn't get the 3 points. But Sheriff on Thursday, it's got to be 3 points. We have to. I expect Erik Ten Hag to put out a strong team. I expected a lot of rotation for that game against Real Sociedad, and we got it. I didn't expect that level of performance, and I'll be completely honest, I don't think that Erik Ten Hag expected that performance. But in terms of the Premier League games this weekend, let me pull this up here for you. We've got confirmation that the organised football is returning to England today. So there's going to be some FA Trophy matches because, look, football even got cancelled down to grassroots level. No under 8s, under 9s, under 10s. All the kids, they didn't play this weekend either. It was a full and total blackout on football, organised football in England following the death of the Queen. Now, we don't know whether the Premier League is going to be back this weekend because I imagine we'll get a little bit more clarity as the week progresses. But as it stands here, on Monday, we don't quite know. You've got John Cross from the Mirror, who's saying that Premier League fixtures are set to resume next weekend. And then separately, you've got Ben Rumsby from the Telegraph saying, look, the Premier League fixtures are still at risk of postponement. Now, we've got official confirmation that the Queen's State funeral will be on Monday, the 19th of September. So a week today. There's going to be a bank holiday in England, and it'll be the first state funeral, I think, since Winston Churchill. So it's like it's a once-in-a-generation thing. And the reason that the Premier League fixtures apparently are still at risk of postponement is to do with policing, because the policing operation inside London for that state funeral is going to be probably on a different scale to anything that probably has ever been seen. So that's the big reason why there's still question marks as to whether these games will go ahead. I like to think they will go ahead, but let's find out, right? At this moment in time, you can't say with any clarity here on Monday morning whether they will or they won't go ahead, because as I said, you've got contrasting reports. John Cross from the Mirror saying they're going ahead, and Ben Rumsby from the Telegraph saying that, well, you never know, they might not go ahead. So we don't know. Our next game may well be in the Premier League against City away, depending on what goes on here with Leeds. But the Crystal Palace games, all the Premier League games at the weekend were postponed, and we don't know about what's coming next. So that is, that's the situation, right? So I've wanted to bring you that bit of news. But look, let's run through. There are still quite a few, I would say, interesting and intriguing talking points that I want to discuss here live in the comments, as we already do every single week. It was a big weekend. It was a big weekend, and it was a 4-hour drive, and I had to do both 4-hour drives there and back because my partner was worse for wear. I was bad, but she was worse. So, mentally, I'm not quite with it today, but I'm sure you can let me off because I enjoyed myself. Yeah, the wedding was Flav's. I'm sure James and Flav for now. You obviously listen to that podcast. I used to work with James and Flav when I worked at Ball Street. Really good friends with both of them. Adam was there as well. Big up, Ad. And yeah, it was one of the most personal weddings I've been to. I don't know. It's a kind of a strange way to describe it. Sometimes when you go to weddings, no offense to weddings, but they can be quite repetitive. You know, the same sort of venues, the same sort of meals, the same. But this one was an extremely personal wedding. That the touches wherever, and it was honestly two of the best speeches I've ever heard at a wedding. The best man and Flav's speech. So it was great. Flav enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. As you can hear, and as you can tell from my mental capacity, I've actually realized now that I can't really do that anymore. I can't really party that hard because you mentally have to be so focused and in here to have a conversation here for 50 minutes and keep talking and actually interacting. It's quite difficult to do. Victor saying, who's Adam? Adam Rosenbaum. Used to work with him. Big up, Ad. June, let me know where you're watching from, right? But let's get into the talking points. Let's talk about Erik Ten Hag. And you know full well that I've been just, even from the first moments when we heard that Ten Hag was a prospect of being Manchester United's manager, I was excited. I was really, really excited. And as the story progressed and it went through and Ten Hag came in, I think I'm there going, my God, my club's actually making the right decisions. Then the preseason happened. And all the training drills that we saw in the preseason, the reintroduction of discipline, of hard work, and then the excitement grew. United beating Liverpool, United winning all those games in preseason and all the positive aspects. And then it all just, it came crumbling down in those first two games against Brighton and Brentford. Then it came firing back with 4 wins in a row. And then we got a little bit of a speed bump for the Sociedad game. I'm not getting too hung up about the Sociedad game, if I'm being completely honest. It was a massively changed team. I think it was a lesson that Ten Hag needed to learn, and he has learned. And I trust the fact that he'll use that lesson and won't repeat mistakes in the same way that he learned lessons in those first 2 games against Brighton and Brentford, and he learned from them, and we won the 4 games following. It seems like Ten Hag is able to take those lessons and implement them into changes straight away. Now, James Ducker did quite an interesting interview on Stretford Paddock over the weekend, and there was one little talking point that he raised that I liked, so I wanted to bring it here this morning with you. He was saying, look, players were getting away with all sorts of negative things last season at Manchester United, but that has now stopped under Erik Ten Hag. And United over the last few years has just been an absolute free-for-all for the players, hasn't it? They could almost turn up to training when they want, decide what percentage of effort they fancied putting in training that week or that day. I don't fancy it today. Nah, I'm feeling a little bit sluggish. They could do what they wanted, and nobody really truly had enough control or respect. And it was Jose Mourinho had control, but I don't think he had the respect. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think, had respect, but I don't think he had control. And I feel like Erik Ten Hag is the first person post-Fergie to not only have that control, but to also be marrying that with a level of respect. I think Louis van Gaal may have had that to a certain point, but his style of football eventually sort of like, it was like a war of attrition with the players, and it sort of ground the players down eventually. But Ten Hag, it feels, has got that balance. He's got that balance well. This photo cracked me up. I think that's Erik Ten Hag. I'm presuming that's his wife. On the bikes, not in Amsterdam. They're in Manchester, out there meeting fans this weekend. Let me pull up this picture as well. Out in Altrincham. Look at that. Down at Papa Dutch. Little, I think it's a little cafe in Altrincham Market. Just made me laugh. Because it's good. I like Manchester. But Amsterdam as a city. Whew, Amsterdam as a city. It's legitimately it's either Amsterdam or Barcelona as my favorite European city. I wouldn't want to choose. I wouldn't want to choose. I want goals down there. You're saying, look, Moyes had neither. Yeah. Moyes didn't have anything. Moyes was a rabbit in headlights, a deer in headlights, whatever he was. He was in the headlights. And he was blinded by the job at Manchester United. But yeah, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that until we started talking here, but that's what I feel that Ten Hag has got that no manager has had at United post-Fergie. That balance of control and respect. With Mourinho, he went too far one way. With Solskjaer, he went too far one way. And eventually that imbalance fractured the squad and caused it all to fall apart. Erik Ten Hag, I feel, is going to be the man that can be able to manage that and sit in the middle and keep that seesaw level, keep the scales level. Yeah, and I've no idea what to expect. In fact, I was going to speak about this later on, but let me try and pull this up now. I think it's that one there. Yeah, it is that one. Look at that. So these are Manchester United's next 6 games in the Premier League, as long as the game against Leeds isn't postponed. We've got Leeds, we've got City, we've got Everton, we've got Newcastle, then we've got Spurs and Chelsea. Honestly, type it down in the comments. Maximum there of 18 points. What do you think would be a realistic expectation of what Manchester United would achieve in those 6 games? Really, really tough games in there. We're going to have City away. We've obviously got Chelsea away down there. Graham Potter, that's after 5-6 games of him embedding himself in as Chelsea's new manager. Spurs, they're flying high with Conte this year. I think Spurs will be dangerous, man. I really, really do. Everton away. But it's Lampard. It's Lampard. And City away. Well, I don't really have to tell you about that City away game. But City away might be our next match. Let me go down here, right? I'm going to pull up lots and lots of you, as always, getting involved in the comments. This always puts a smile on my face, honestly. This is where the community really comes through. It's so engaged. So many of you down here in the comments. Let me read quite a few of you out. Rob, you're saying you think 12 points, and Dew and you agree. Paul Gray is obviously drunk here on Monday morning. I probably am still a little bit drunk. You're saying 18 points. Michael, you're saying 14. Jonathan, 10. 15 from Michael there. 12 to 15. 11. I would take 12 or 13. Stephen, you're not feeling very chipper. You're saying 8 to 10. Josh, you're going for 12. 10 points, says Jay. What else down here? 14, 12, 12. The majority of you down there, I would say, are quite confident, really. And you're going for a win against Leeds, losing away at City, beating Everton, drawing against Newcastle, and beating both Spurs and Chelsea. Wow. But what you can see here, right? The season's going to start cranking up now. I know the season has already cranked up. We played Liverpool at home. We played Arsenal at home. We've not had the easiest set of fixtures, but Also inside that, we've had Brighton at home, and you would have expected Manchester United to win that. Brentford away was never going to be easy, and we got absolutely steamrolled in that game. And Southampton and Leicester wrapped in between. But City away, Chelsea away, and Spurs at home, it's tough. I would back United to be beating Leeds. Jesse Marsch has definitely got Leeds playing better this year, but at home, these are the sorts of fixtures now where that mentality has to change, right? Man United at home at Old Trafford, it should be chests out. There should be a home advantage. Man United should have a home advantage playing at Old Trafford. We haven't had that for a good long time. But beating Liverpool there, beating Arsenal there, two fantastic results. Southampton and Leicester, good performances away from home. And obviously that Brighton game on the opening day of the season was a bit of a curveball. But I don't think Erik Ten Hag could have predicted that level of performance from those players. Newton Heath, you're saying that's a good question. Look at that. You asked this question last year and nobody would really give more than 6 points. I think that's a pretty fair, and I wouldn't say it's completely accurate, but it's pretty damn accurate of mentally where we are. And that's what I mean. The players must be thinking that too. And that's what it is. A lot of football's about confidence. Confidence to take that pass on. Confidence to make that run. Confidence to take that shot on. If you don't have confidence, odds are you're probably not going to score, or probably not going to make that pass, or probably not going to make that tackle. But I think we beat Leeds. I'll be honest, we're losing against City. City this year, looking a bit like Verstappen in the F1. It's a bit of a runaway. No one's really going to get that close to City unless we all get surprised. But it seems like City are just the City of last year, and they've got the added bonus of Erling Haaland on top. And when you've got a goal scorer like that, it just changes things. It really, really changes things. I'm going to be fascinated by how we play away at City. The only thing that I think the most realistic expectation from Manchester United fans would be that we go to that game against City and we are truly competitive. Truly competitive. Last few years against City, I mean, Solskjaer was somehow he was a king of getting good results there, really, wasn't he? He had a cracking result against Guardiola at the Etihad. But I imagine we'll lose against City. Everton, away. Everton are a joke this year. We should be beating Everton. That shouldn't be a game where we go in there and go... Because you can look at that game against Everton from two different directions, right? You can say, man, Goodison Park, been a bit of a bogey ground for years. And you can go and you can start adding those sort of pessimistic thoughts in your head and you go, maybe, maybe not. But no, we need to go into that game against Everton and go, you know what? They're genuinely going to be relegation candidates this year. We have to go there and get 3 points and come away with that confidence. Newcastle at home, I think that'll be a really good game, but you've got to back United to do it. Spurs at home, tough game. Up there with just how tough Arsenal was, but we came up on top against Arsenal. Hopefully we can do the same thing there. And then Chelsea away. Again, Solskjaer made that one of his sort of like one of his favourite places. We got great results there. Phil, no, I'm not going to fall. See, that is one I will definitely never fall for. So that's probably awe. And that's just shocking. Come on, you're better than that. I Swallow got me, but Phil, he won't. Val, you're saying, got to be optimistic about your club. 16 points for me. Well, I mean, imagine that. Imagine we got 16 points for that. Jonathan, you say, look, Merseyside derby is signs of everything getting it together. Will be tough and they won't be relegation contenders. Well, let's find out. But in my opinion, I don't think Frank Lampard's going to be Everton manager by the end of the season. Just my opinion. Alex, you're, man, as always. Coming in here, Alex has just gifted 5 memberships to the community. One absolute don. Thank you very much, dude. 5 more members coming in. If you're one of the people that's got those gifted membership, leave a comment. I'll try and read that out. But yeah, Phil, you've got to be better. If you're going to try and catch me out, you've got to be better. Ice Swallow. You got me last week, but you're not going to get me with that one. But yeah, it's just put a smile on my face. I just like the photo. I think Erik Ten Hag he's settling in now. 2 years ago, he was a bit of a And I think this element of control, right? The idea that what players were doing last year, then they literally can't get away with anymore. The new teachers come in, and this teacher's got a hell of a lot more control over this squad. And the control is everything. Erik Ten Hag, if you're going to say, that's his fundamental rule, really. Off the pitch, he wants control. He wants to make sure that everything's going on at the training ground as it should be. On the pitch, he wants Manchester United to exert that control. And maybe that's why we've never been able to have that much control on the pitch over the last few years, is because off the pitch, we didn't have that control. The dressing room was a bit, and I'm going to be speaking about the Martial interview next. For me, is the perfect example of how managers just didn't have that control before. They really, really didn't. Someone down there is saying, no, there you go. Look, Niall, thanks to the community, just got gifted another membership. Big up to you, my friend. Aid, if you want to join as a member on Facebook, you can. I think you just follow that in the description of the video. You just click there, and you can go through and become a member. If you're on YouTube, I think there's just a join button down below as well. Papa, you're saying, look, steadying the ship this season, we can't expect the most. We can expect competitiveness the whole way through. We really, really can. Glenn, you're saying, look, I like the way he controls the media too. Ask a stupid question. You get, his one-word answers are beautiful. Erik Ten Hag, I don't particularly think is the easiest person to interview. Sometimes you get colorful responses, nice, long, eloquent responses in interviews from questions. And sometimes you get no, yes. And then the interviewer is just like staring at him and going, what am I supposed to do with that? It's quite funny. It's like the, what's his name? Gary Cotterill. Erik Ten Hag remembered his face from the Crystal Palace game before he officially got the job. I think was that just after he officially got the job. And he remembered that Gary Cotterill was the man pestering him. So when it came to a press conference the other day, he just banned him from it. Very Fergie-esque, and I like that. Now, this is a very, very separate point altogether, but I spotted this from a Norwegian newspaper. So I wanted to bring it up here. It's coming from VG out in Norway. And it's that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be returning to management, by the looks of it, sooner rather than later. He was back on the coaching bench at the weekend for the first time since November last year. And I'll be honest, man, I hope he can go somewhere and absolutely smash it. The pressures of Manchester United got to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. His weaknesses in terms of player management ultimately were fundamental to his downfall. I think players took advantage of that, and he didn't have that control. He had the respect of everybody, but you can respect someone and they wouldn't be a good boss, and sometimes you can take the piss out of that relationship. And I believe there that happened with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer quite a lot. I think a lot of players just took the piss. But I hope that Solskjaer can go elsewhere and absolutely nail it. And I would love to watch it. Moga, you're saying, look, he could go to Bournemouth. I don't think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be coming back to the Premier League now. I don't think that would be the right thing for him to do. I think what he would need to do is just rebuild himself elsewhere, a year or 2 years or anything that he did. He would have learned a lot at Manchester United and maybe learned a lot what not to do. But those lessons can be equally as important to you in life. It's a bit like Erik Ten Hag. He's learned now that he can't change 6-7 players inside this Manchester United team and expect the same level of performance. He wouldn't have known that if he hadn't made that mistake against Real Sociedad. But as I said, because it's Europa League, because there's 6 games in it, I don't think it's a result which ultimately will hurt Manchester United across the course of the season. It was just a bit of it was a bit of a shitter. Quite a few of you down there. Look, Liam and Jonathan with the same comment at the same time. Kieran McKenna, again, absolutely smashing it at Ipswich. I think they're top of the league. I mean, they were top of the league last week. I don't know if they still are. Kieran McKenna was, everybody was just like, well, not everybody, but a lot of United fans were just there, like just shotgun out, just spraying at everybody. Kieran McKenna, Fletcher, Solskjaer, everybody getting it. Was in reality, Kieran McKenna was a fantastic coach with Spurs' under-18s. And that's what got him the job at Manchester United. He was a fantastic coach with Manchester United under-18s. He won the league with our under-18s. And then the only reason that he came through, I believe, was because Rui Faria left was Mourinho's assistant. He left, and then Kieran McKenna got sort of accelerated upwards. Kieran McKenna's good. Kieran McKenna clearly has skills, and he's exerting that. I think probably going to Brighton for Kieran McKenna now, again, would be a little bit too soon, but it does happen quite a lot in football these days, doesn't it? Whether it's Lampard at Chelsea, whether it's, I don't know what other examples you can, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there's a lot of examples of players going to management. You think, that's a bit, really? It's a bit soon for that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But going back to, so comment there from Chin Mayer saying that I won't say changing the team. No, I think it was a mistake. Of course it was a mistake. We lost 1-0. Rotating the team wasn't a mistake. Trusting that squad enough that you made 6-7 changes, that I believe is something that Erik Ten Hag will say to himself. That was a mistake. I'm not going to do that again. Next time I rotate, I'm going to rotate 3, maybe 4 players. So like this game against Sheriff on Thursday, I think will be the majority of Manchester United's first team, with a few players maybe selectively taken out. Or maybe it won't be because we didn't play against Crystal Palace at the weekend. So everyone's had a full week's rest between that game against Sociedad to this game against Sheriff. But I don't think he's going to be resting too many players in that game. But going back to, I would say probably not going back to it, but probably the biggest talking point this morning. And that is, actually, no, it's not the biggest talking point this morning. That's a lie. But the Antony Martial interview over the weekend, I saw got a serious response. Obviously, I was away at the wedding, so I couldn't do any sort of reaction video to it. I just let it sort of settle. And I saw the reaction to it. Antony Martial is a player that is just, he burst onto the scene as a teenager. Injuries sort of hampered him. And then he had that season under Solskjaer in 2019-20 when him and Rashford and Voldemort, they got 70 goals combined, I think, between the three of them. You think, Jesus, our striking, our attacking is sorted. And then the year after, Rashford and Martial sort of, they disappeared. Martial's given an interview where he tries to explain his own position. And I'll be really interested to hear your thoughts, opinions. You let me know what you think about it. But going back to this point here, right? This concept that Erik Ten Hag, he's talking about players getting away with negative things last season. That's how stopped under him. It's things like this which created that environment where players were negative, because the managers, simply put, did not have the respect of the players, because as far as quite a lot of these players were concerned, they didn't have that respect from the manager. And it's, as Martial sort of explains later, it's a bit of a vicious circle. Here he's speaking about when the number 9 shirt got taken away from him when he was under Mourinho. And he said, I told Mourinho I've got the greatest respect for Giggs, but that I preferred to keep my number 9 shirt. But when I returned to the club, I see my jersey with the number 11 on it. The story did not start well. He disrespected me straight up. Now, it's not a bit of an arsey move. It's a properly arsey move from Jose Mourinho to simply take that number 9 away and give it to Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And Martial, certainly, when it comes to other players coming into Manchester United, whether it's Zlatan Ibrahimovic, whether it's Alexis Sanchez, whether it's Romelu Lukaku, I don't think he's particularly coped that well with that sort of extra competition. I think he's taken it as sort of like a personal, like almost like personally offended by the fact that Manchester United have added more competition in, rather than, so maybe in his mind, he's like, well, I'm not good enough then. All right, cool. And instead of driving him to become a better player, it's kind of worked counteractively. I think so. But as well as sort of speaking about the issues that he had with his relationship with Mourinho, he's sort of speaking about what happened under Solskjaer too. And he said, look, the last 2 seasons, I've regularly played injured. People don't know that. I couldn't accelerate during the first 4 months during the COVID season. Solskjaer told me that he needed me, so I played. But I took it very badly. I had a feeling of injustice. You're asked to sacrifice yourself for the team, and behind you are dismissed. For me, it's almost treachery. That's all I hate. I can be blamed, but not for being fake. And if he's playing, right, obviously he was playing through injury. That's not good because Martial, he just seemed like a different player altogether. But ultimately, all of these comments, and I think there's complete truth here. He's speaking about what's happened with his relationship with Mourinho and the number 9 shirt and the fact that he was playing through an injury. It all kind of pales in insignificance when you then speak about this. And he was saying, look, it's a vicious circle. I'm less efficient because I play less. And therefore, I play even less. When it's like that, I can sometimes drop out a bit. A player like Cavani, he's at 3,000% even when given a few minutes. And that right there, Antony, that is the problem with you as a Manchester United player. He's right there. He said, look, it is as far as he is concerned, he is not a player who is capable of being left out of a team and then can be expected and relied on to come back into the team and absolutely smash it out the park. He calls it a vicious circle. But then when you compare to players like Cavani, who can come off that bench and can just go in there straight full tilt, 3,000%, that's on Martial. And that's something that he has to switch. He can work on improving that. That's got nothing to do with anybody else. That is to do with Antony Martial. And if he can find it in himself as a professional to go, you know what? It doesn't matter if you don't get played here, there, or there, because it's a squad game. It's all about. It is a squad game. I was referred to him back when it was 99. It's the best example that there will ever be of it. Of having 4 strikers playing in a 4-4-2, and players were dropped in and out. Sheringham and Solskjaer and Cole and York. And all of them were so important for United across that season. And they all scored ridiculously important goals. Martial, it's obvious that he gets extremely frustrated. I think this is coming out in this interview, that he gets frustrated when he's not in the team. When he's not in a team, it doesn't sit well with him. And it takes him a little bit of time to sort of warm up again. To get the wheels turning. I suppose it's like F1 just after you've made a pit stop and you've got fresh tyres. It takes you a few laps to go around before you start getting a bit of heat back in the tyres, before you start getting a bit of grip. So you kind of like, you take it easy until that point. And that's a bit like Martial there. That's what he's just openly admitted in this interview. He goes, for him, it's a vicious circle. If I'm not playing as good, I'm going to be left out of the team. But for me to start playing better, I need to be back into the team. What comes first, chicken or the egg? Martial, man, that point is up to you. I've got absolute... I completely agree that this was a dick move from Mourinho. And that's what I mean. Mourinho might have had the control of taking away the number 9 from Martial. But then he completely lost the respect to the player as a consequence. That's not balanced. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had the control of playing Martial when he was injured. But he didn't have the respect of Martial. And that's not balanced. But if you're talking about that balance, Antony Martial, my friend, it's up to you here, because you will not play maybe you will. Look, Martial looked absolutely phenomenal in pre-season. He really genuinely did. And I got sucked back in straight away. I'm like, oh, here he is. That's the Martial that we know and love. But Martial, it's up to you now that when you come back into this team, even if you've had a slightly poor game and you get left out the next one, don't take that personally, because it's a professional decision. And just make sure that when you come back in, that you absolutely smash it. Now, Steve, you're down there saying this, saying that Ronaldo's the same. I would semi-disagree on that, because I think Zinedine Zidane was the manager who managed Ronaldo the best. Out of anybody that's ever managed Ronaldo, I personally think that Zidane did it the best at his peak, when he was Ronaldo, like Ballon d'Or, multiple Champions League winning Ballon d'Or winner, winning everything. That's when Ronaldo was sometimes left out of the Liga games, and he was pissed off about it. But then he would go and score back-to-back hat-tricks in like Champions League quarterfinals, because he was at a 100% ready. That's good management. That's balance. That's having the control and the respect at the same time, and it delivers performances. Martial's going to have to he's going to have to find that within himself. That's called professional development. And he's at this point in his career, he's had some good times, he's had some shit times, and he's had a lot of injuries in between. But if Martial wants to take himself from where he is now as a football player and a professional up to that top level, then he's admitted it right there. There is a mentality flaw that he has within himself that he can polish, that he can refine. And if he can work on that himself, no one can change that apart from Martial. That's all down to him. And if he does that, I imagine he'll get rewarded for it. That's professional development. And what are you saying? Do you think Ole had less tolerance for that mentality because he had spent so long on the bench himself, yet still delivered the goods time? That's a really good point. I wouldn't say that it meant that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had less time for it, but it's a bit like when you hear Roy Keane speaking about characters and dress and the personalities that are in the game now, and he doesn't understand how players are now compared to how players were back then, because football was different. Football was, and the players of that time were a little bit different. But I want Martial to smash it this year. I really do. I wanted Martial to leave. So it was the best thing for Manchester United to be able to sell him, replace him, move on. Done and dusted. We didn't do that. Therefore, what's best for my football club now? Martial absolutely tearing it up between now and the end of the season. That's the best thing for Manchester United. Therefore, it's the best thing for me. And I want Martial to do that. And he's just explained right there one of the hurdles that's going to stop him doing that, because he won't just be playing every single week. There will be games where he is dropped. He has to make sure that that doesn't happen. DWM, you're saying, look, what happened at Seville? He got I'll be honest, he got quite a few injuries as well. Bat Boy's just saying that isn't Martial talking about playing through the injuries? Yeah, he is talking about that, but at the same time, it reflects on the fact that he's being left out of games and left out of the whole thing's a vicious circle. Now, the whole thing is, if we're gonna define Martial's career at Manchester United so far, it's just kind of been a vicious circle. It really has. And I want that Martial back that was there as a teenager under Van Gaal. I think he got like 17 goals in that year. Fuck, he was exciting to watch, man. Really, really was. So good. And he was exciting in pre-season too. So he's still there. And he's only what, like, was he 25? How old is Martial? I don't know if he's 25. But look. 26. Shit. He's 27 in December. He's older than I thought he was. My God, he's been here a long-ass time, man. Jeez. I thought he joined United as is it 19? I think he did. 18 or 19. Martial. Come on, baby. And I think Erik Ten Hag is the manager that he won't do what Mourinho did. He won't do things like that sort of a decision that a player can consider so disrespectful that it sort of snaps their relationship in half. I don't think Ten Hag will do that. I think a player that he used to do that before. I remember Noah Lang, that player who was speaking back to Erik Ten Hag during a game when Ten Hag was telling him what not to do, and he got booted out and shipped off. So he can fall out of players. But Martial, I think at this point in his career, with a new clean slate, with Erik Ten Hag as his manager, it's down to Martial now whether he wants to really develop himself. And he's talked about the fragility and the mental side of the game. And I think if you can't develop that part of it, then I don't think he'll be able to take that step up at Manchester United. And I think that leaving at the end of the season is basically an inevitability. Ray, you're saying it's injuries that hampered him, not his ability or attitude. I personally think it's all three. I think it's injuries, ability, and attitude. And they're all interweaved and they're all intertwined. You can't just say it's one and not the other. I think that would be disingenuous. But let's hope that Martial comes back and nails it this year, man. And look, somebody else that we can speak about too. Somebody else who's had, I don't know what I would call it. If I was to say that a vicious circle would be an accurate way to sum up Martial's career at Manchester United, what would you say about Donny Van Der Beek so far? He was speaking in an official interview on the Man United website. He was saying this about Manchester United at the moment. He goes, look, I'm really working hard for it. So I'm positive. I'll do my best. The last part of the season, I was injured. I could feel that in the first few weeks of preseason, but now I've started to feel better and better. So I'm really positive. He goes, energy is so important. I think that's the first thing that's important, the spirit and the aggression. You need to have the will to win. But Donny Van Der Beek is a man that I was ridiculously excited when we signed him. Ridiculously excited. But I think as it transpired, quite quickly, there was a signing that the club made rather than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Van Der Beek hardly got used. When he got used, it was in odd positions. It was up and down. And I'll be honest, in the performances that he did put in, he didn't do enough to force his way into contention to start in the Premier League, and he hardly got a sniff. And then Donny Van Der Beek, during the preseason, he didn't, by comparison, I think Donny Van Der Beek played more minutes than anybody else in the preseason. So Erik Ten Hag gave him his dues, gave him his opportunity to prove himself, get fit, get ready, and get back into this squad and this team. Donny Van Der Beek's hardly been used this year. I don't actually know how much he's been injured, because I thought he was injured for the game against Sociedad. That's why he wasn't in it. So I don't know. Donny Van Der Beek is it's a confusing one, I suppose. It really is a confusing one. I mean, if it's going to happen for him at Manchester United, it's going to happen under Erik Ten Hag. Now, Michael, I'll read a few of your comments out down here on Donny Van Der Beek. See what you're thinking. You're saying, Michael, personally don't think he's got what it takes for the Prem, but I like him as a person and I do feel sorry for him. Cordell, you're saying Donny Van Der Beek is going to improve a lot because he's going to get that time to do it and adapt at his own pace. And Josh, you're down there saying, look, everyone's talking about Ronaldo's professionalism, but look at Donny. Donny's never really said or done anything overtly negative, despite the constant kicks in the bollocks that he's got. It's like he's just got up from a big one and then he gets absolutely clobbered again. He's like, oh, here we go. Back down we go. He's cracked on. He's not really outwardly let the smile drop from his face. And as a fan, you watch that. And that, I think, is why he's got so much goodwill and credit with the fans, because he's never done that. And therefore, fans will always remain a little bit more patient, will always hope and wish the best for you. With Van Der Beek, I've got no idea now. I thought he was average in the preseason. I think he was average. And I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. And that's not an agenda. So don't start throwing random words at me again, people. But I like to think that Van Der Beek could have an impact this season. We've seen what Eriksen has and can do for this team. It's incredible. But Donny Van Der Beek is not Christian Eriksen. Donny Van Der Beek is basically where Bruno is. And Bruno's been nailing it, I think, so far. D, I'm going to call you D. You're saying in 3 months he will be a regular. Mark my words. Again. But let's find out. I like to think that Donny can come through and have an impact on this season. I think he'll have to do it by competing with Bruno Fernandes, because I don't think he'll be able to compete with Christian Eriksen. He's not a playmaker from deep. He is somebody who arrives on the edge of the box. That is what he does. He's somebody who uses space, creates space, uses space as sort of like a magnet, pulls defenders away to create space for others, sometimes uses that space that others create. That's what Donny Van Der Beek does and does well. But Bruno wearing the captain's armband, Bruno basically being fit enough to start every single game across the season. Bruno, I think, will improve. I back Bruno to be our player of the year. And I actually still think that will happen. And I quite enjoyed Bruno's performances recently, I'll be completely honest. But let's find out. Donny Van Der Beek, oh man, I want it to work out for him. I really do. Not just because I want it to work out for him, but I think our squad will be better if we get that 2019 Donny Van Der Beek playing under Erik Ten Hag again, when he literally got into the Ballon d'Or top 20 players. He's not a shit footballer. He isn't. I think what we've kind of seen is he's a bit of a system footballer. There's certain players that thrive in a system, but if you were to take them out of that system and away from that manager and put them in a different team, they wouldn't be as effective. I think Donny Van Der Beek is one of those. But let's find out here whether or not it's going to happen at United. Stephen, you're saying Donny and Eriksen would be a partnership in a few months. And I don't think it would. because Donny Van Der Beek and Eriksen is not a midfield partnership that's going to have any sort of presence in the Premier League. It's just not. It's going to get overrun. Absolutely just shoved over. It wouldn't work. That's a midfield that does not have the balance that's required. IWC leaving comments down here saying the fixtures are congested. Donny will be given his chance. Bruno can't play every game and Eriksen can't play every game. In Donny we trust now. Or is one of the OG, one of the original Donny Van Der Beek fans. And he's been wanting him to play and to play and to play. I think he will be given his chances. Maybe against Sharif on Thursday. Maybe we're looking at certain, as I said, I think there will be like 2, 3, 4 rotations inside that. If he's fit and able to start, maybe Sharif will be where we see Bruno on the bench and Donny Van Der Beek starting that role. Cordell, you're saying, Sam, you might say about Donny Van Der Beek what you said about Scotty and Delot. I mean, let's hope so. And look, speaking of Delot, I've got that up. Is that here? No, I think it's this one here. No, we'll speak about Luke Shaw in a bit. But look at Delot, right? Look at how much he's improved this year. It's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. He's had the most touches out of any United player in the Premier League this season. He's made the most tackles out of any United player, most interceptions, most joint most ball recoveries, joint most chances created, and the joint most aerial duels won. It really is just like a full repertoire from Diogo Dalot. His improvement this year has been absolutely spectacular. It really has been. I've been amazed by it. I think for me, if I was looking at players that I thought took to Ten Hag's system straight away, I would probably say it was Diogo Dalot and I would probably say Antony Martial. They were the two who impressed me immediately in pre-season and just kept building and building and building on it. Dalot's just been unreal. And I fear for what happens when he gets injured because I think, especially in the modern day fullback, it's probably the most physically intense of the positions because you've got to bomb it up and down that wing the whole time. So I don't know what's going to happen when we take him out because I don't think we've got a replacement. But yeah, what you're saying there about, could we be speaking about Van Der Beek in the same way that we're now speaking about McTominay and the same way we're speaking about Dalot? I hope so, because both of those have seen just such significant improvements. It's been mind-boggling. It really, really has. In terms of injuries, we haven't seen Luke Shaw for a while. And apparently he's been struggling with a foot injury that's ruled him out the last few games. Let's see if we get him in against Sharif. But again, Tyrone Malacia, I think, has been fantastic. He hasn't been on the same level as Diogo Dalot, as the same level as Lisandro Martinez. But Tyrell's got the perfect attitude and athleticism as a combination, that his recovery ability is sensational. He might get caught out of position, but his burst of pace over the first 5 yards means he's able to recover it so well. It's a bit like Wan-Bissaka. He's known as Spider. He's not known as Spider-Man, but he's from positions where you just don't think that Wan-Bissaka is going to be able to make a tackle. He manages to wrap his leg around and get that tackle in. We need to see Luke Shaw back. Well, I don't necessarily need to see him back, actually, because I think we're playing pretty well without him. But if we see him back, we need to see him back to that Luke Shaw in the build-up to the Euros that was, well, he got into the team in the tournament, scored in the final. He was fantastic that year as well. We need to see that back. We really, really do. I'm going to go down here and read a few more of these comments down here. DDD saying, Van der Sar contract video, that was some humor. It was indeed. I'll tell you what I'm going to start doing. I thought about this earlier, actually. What I'm going to start doing now, at the end of every stream, I am going to switch the chat on YouTube. You'll see it now. It should pop up. Let me just make sure I've done it right. Let's see. Go there. Right. Yeah. Members only. So I've switched the chat now on YouTube for the last few minutes of every show now, because the member community is getting so big. I want to try and give a bit more back to you because you're bringing so much into the community. So members only for the last few minutes of every live stream. I'm going to try and remember now. It's members only live chat on YouTube. So any questions that any members have got now, fire them in. If you want to be involved in this part of every single live stream, just join part of the community, right? So that's what we're going to do, because honestly, the community is growing so big and big. I have to start giving a little bit back. That's what I think. So anyway, I saw this. This came out as well. Manchester United, according to Forbes, the most recent valuation, they got $4.6 billion on there. But I've got no idea how much Manchester United would actually be sold for. I really, really don't. Wazza on Facebook, you're saying, look, am I doing the podcast this week? I'll ask the lads. I'll do a podcast if they want to. I'd like to do one. I'd like to do one every single week. Not much of a talking point, apart from what we've already discussed here. So let's have a look then. We'll see what's going on. Shady, what are you saying? You're saying, how will this gap affect us for the next game? You would imagine it should help with the fitness levels, but comes at a pretty shitty time in terms of form, right? Because we've just come out of the back of that game against Arsenal off the back of 4 wins. We didn't need a break for that. We didn't need that break, did we? So that was a little bit annoying. Sam, what do you reckon about Casemiro, says Ray? Casemiro, for me, has been a little bit, I have to admit, I was surprised at his performance against Real Sociedad. I was not expecting Casemiro to be that off the pace. It wasn't just about him sitting in front of the back four and screening and protecting. He lost possession-wise. He lost it far more than I expected him to. Decision-wise, he was making far more wrong decisions than I was expecting him to. And he did look at pace quite a few yards off the pace as well, just like everyone else in that game. So I can't isolate him for that. But I want Casemiro. I want Casemiro in that starting 11. I want him good enough that he's knocking Scott McTominay out of that starting 11. And to be better than Scott McTominay right now, he's got to really up his levels. So Casemiro, man, take it upon yourself. Can I do a podcast with McLaren's son again? Maybe I will in the future, but not at this particular moment in time. Alex, out of Iqbal, Savage, Garnacho, McNeil, who do you think will break through this season? I think it's Garnacho. Garnacho is the one who, for me, looks ready. And positionally as well, I think it makes sense that he would break through. McNeil as well. Good to see him get on. I imagine we should now probably expect to see Charlie McNeil travel for more matches. I imagine he'll be involved in most of the Europa League squad games now. That's what I think so anyway. Full squad for Sharif, warm-up. I imagine it's going to be quite a full squad. I really, really do. Paul, you're down there saying, look, gave the ball. I think that's just rustiness. Whether it's rustiness, whether it's to do with a new system, I don't really know what it is. But that I just wasn't expecting from Casemiro. I was expecting him to just be like, find his teammates with the ball. That's the main thing of what a defensive midfielder has to do. Is good ball recycling. Has to be able to find his teammates with the passes. That's the point. They're supposed to defend and break and sort of screen that defense, but also just keep possession. That's a big, big thing. Can we expect the arms returning? I think the arms will return at some point this season. The arms, I just found it was a little bit exhausting doing that before the game. It wasn't really my sort of cup of tea, but I want to start doing some members only actual streams. Anybody who hasn't joined the Telegram, if you're a member and you haven't joined the Telegram, you need to. When I'm going to start doing members only videos, they will only exist inside that Telegram community, inside that members only channel. That's the way I'm going to be able to bring it to everybody from Facebook and everyone to YouTube at the same time. So if you're on as a member on YouTube, go to the community tab. There is a special link to the members only chat on there. If you're on Facebook, go to the private Facebook group that you automatically become part of when you become a member. There's a link to the Telegram in there. You want to join. You really, really do. But look, there's a video I'm going to be doing later today, which I'm really looking forward to. I genuinely think, right? I genuinely feel that Lisandro Martinez has the ability to become our most important signing over the last 10 years. Now, you might say that's a bit of an exaggeration to go in with such a statement like that so soon. And that's not particularly my style of things because I'm not really a reactionary person. I feel pretty damn strongly about this. So I want to do a video on it. So that's going to be the video going out at lunchtime today. Tomorrow, I'm going to have my starting 11 for Sharif, as well as another video. We're going to crank the videos back up. Had Sunday off. I'll tell you what, I feel far better than I did at the start of the live stream. We're back in the room. We're back in the game. I feel less hungover. That's what happens when you speak for 55 minutes straight. I need some water. But look, thank you very much, everybody, for joining in today. Thank you, Alex, for donating 5 memberships to the community. Thank you, all of you, for joining in. I'll be here, as I said, later today, and I'll be here Monday to Friday all week. So if you are new and you haven't subscribed, join the community. And I've only said it now, but drop a like on the video as well. It does really, really help. And we'll see you soon. And hopefully the Premier League's going to be back this weekend. At this moment in time, we don't know that yet. But football is definitely back on Thursday. So no matter what happens this week, we're playing Sharif on Thursday. We'll take it easy, everyone. Good to be back.